until they could be together properly. She talked about our house, my income, and how she'd planned everything perfectly. She said once the divorce was final, she'd get the house and primary custody of the kids, plus child support and probably alimony. She said Derek wouldn't have to worry about money because I made plenty and would be funding their life together. I stood there frozen, listening to my wife casually discuss dismantling my life so she could be with another man. She talked about me like I was just an obstacle, a paycheck that came with inconvenient feelings. When she finally ended the call, I walked into the bedroom and confronted her. Vanessa's face went white when she saw me. She tried to claim it wasn't what it sounded like, that Derek was just a friend, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I'd heard everything. She stared at me for a moment, then her expression changed completely. The mask dropped, and I saw someone I didn't recognize. She told me she'd been seeing Derek for 4 months. Derek was her ex-boyfriend from before we met, and they'd reconnected on social media. She said she'd never really gotten over him and that being with me had been a mistake. She said she'd tried to make it work, but she couldn't deny her feelings anymore. I asked her about the kids, about the 8 years we'd spent together, about the vows we'd made. She said the kids would be fine, that plenty of children have divorced parents. As for our marriage, she said people change and grow apart, and it was better to be honest now than waste more years pretending. Then she laid out her plan with shocking casualness. She was filing for divorce and would be requesting primary custody of the kids. She expected to keep the house since she was the primary caregiver and the kids needed stability. She'd calculated that between child support and alimony, she'd receive about 60% of my take-home income. She'd already consulted with a lawyer, apparently. She said I could visit the kids on weekends and would need to find an apartment. She suggested I move out within the month to make the transition easier. She said Derek would be moving in once I left, and they were planning to get married once our divorce was final. She had this entire future planned out, and all of it was funded by my money while I was pushed out of my own life. I sat there listening to this, and instead of feeling angry, I felt strangely calm. She'd made one massive miscalculation, and I was about to watch her entire plan crumble. I asked her if she'd discussed the house with her lawyer. She said of course, and that her lawyer assured her she'd get to keep it since she was the primary parent and had been a homemaker throughout our marriage. That's when I told her the truth. The house wasn't in my name. It was in my mother's name and always had been. I had no ownership stake in it whatsoever. Which meant she couldn't take it in a divorce because it wasn't marital property. She'd be leaving with whatever she came into the marriage with, plus potentially some of my savings and future support payments, but the house she'd been planning to live in with Derek belonged to my mother. Vanessa's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, anger, and then pure panic. She said I was lying, that I'd told her the house was mine. I reminded her that I'd always been clear the house was in my mother's name. She said she thought that was just a technicality, that obviously I owned it in practice. I told her that legally, ownership is all that matters, and legally, I own nothing. She started yelling, saying I deceived her and trapped her. I pointed out the irony of her accusing me of deception while she'd been planning to leave me for months and had calculated exactly how much of my money she'd take. She said that was different, that she deserved the house.